Welcome everyone. Today we got to talk about a story that caught my attention over this past weekend. It was from this New York Post headline, which said that a man who was driving over 100 miles an hour on the streets of Los Angeles, who T-boned an Uber driver, killing 3 women, was actually on probation at the time for a murder. And the reason we're going to talk about this should be obvious to you. Los Angeles has a woke district attorney. His name is Gascon. He doesn't prosecute anyone, and the lack of prosecution of gang members with repeated felonies, long rap sheets, and releasing them onto the streets just cost 3 women who were reportedly coming home from a concert their lives, based on the fact that Los Angeles refused to do their damn job. Now, we're going to get into this. I'm going to explain what this guy got just 5 years probation for at the time that he committed this horrific act. But I gotta say, thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to my podcast listeners on Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
Also got some new video, so take a look at this. You can see the moment of impact and just how fast this guy was going. It was 5 a.m. on August 26th. The suspect was traveling northbound on Vermont Avenue in South LA when he collided with the victim's vehicle, an Uber with 5 occupants inside. The suspect was speeding, going about 85-90 miles per hour. He blew through a red light and then T-boned the Uber. According to the LAPD, he was blowing through several red lights, so it's possible he was trying to flee from something.
So as you can see from this video, this was a horrific accident. Reportedly, the Uber, which was a Honda, actually spun around 5 or 6 times. One of the women was actually ejected from the vehicle, and all 3 of them that were in the back, the passengers, ultimately ended up dying from this collision. Now, of course, Gregory Black Jr., the suspect in this case, he had a fractured ankle, so minor injuries for the scumbag who ended up T-boning this vehicle because he was driving between 85, 90, and 100 miles an hour. The reports are conflicting, but by the way, according to multiple reports, this guy was speeding through a bunch of different red lights and stop signs, and this might have been because he was fleeing another crime scene that we do not have details of. But as I said before, a crazy maniac driver, a gangbanger, somebody with a long history, is not necessarily enough for me to cover this video on its own. What makes matters worse is that there was actually an opportunity for Gascon, the district attorney for Los Angeles, to crack down on this individual, and this relates to his involvement in a 2020 murder case that Gascon refused to pursue a legitimate sentence for. And this has been often obscured by the media, just reporting that maybe it was a murder case without all the details, but I'm going to give you the details here, and then I'm going to give you the sentence, and you're going to tell me if you think that this was a sensible sentence for somebody with this level of pedigree as a gang member and as a criminal.
Charges against the suspect. We now know his name, Gregory Black, 31 years old, and a well-known gang member in the city of Los Angeles. According to the LAPD, on August 26th, the day of the accident, he was out on probation for a previous murder conviction.
So on May 20th of 2020, Black was one of 4 defendants in a drive-by shooting case. The others were Kenneth Bragg, Katrina Briggs Bradley, and Horace Dwayne Shankin Jr. Now, all 4 were arrested and initially charged with murder in July of 2020 at the Compton courthouse, according to court records. This was a drive-by shooting where all of these individuals were in the vehicle, and they reportedly shot at somebody, ultimately leading to their death, although we don't have any details on the victim at this moment in time. However, unfortunately, because Gascon is the district attorney, even though all 4 were initially charged with the murder, by the fall of 2021, the charges were reduced to manslaughter, which of course makes perfect sense, because why would you dare prosecute gang members executing a drive-by shooting? It's not like these people present a clear and present danger to people in the city of Los Angeles. Obviously, they need a break. Obviously, they're driving by and murdering people in order to feed their starving family, so why would you charge them to the fullest extent of the law if you're DA Gascon? And this is when the pleas started coming in up against the lesser charge. Now, Briggs Bradley and Bragg had each pleaded no contest to 1 count of voluntary manslaughter. Briggs Bradley was sentenced to 12 years in state prison, and Bragg was sentenced to 21 years. Now, I'm guessing the greater sentence is due to the fact that this person would have been the person to fire the gunshot that ultimately led to the death of the person in the drive-by shooting. You also likely have the 12-year sentence, and again, I'm just assuming because these court records are not readily available to the public, would possibly be due to the driver, or if there was some coordination in the planning of this drive-by shooting. So this would explain the higher end sentences for manslaughter in this case. However, I do need to point this out because this is absolutely crucial, and we always have to bring this up whenever we're talking about cases in California, that in your time awaiting trial while you're in jail, you're actually getting double time towards your sentence. So if this was in 2020 and these cases usually take 1 to 2 years, you're actually getting credit for 2 to 4 years on your sentence, which is absolutely crucial even when we're talking about that 12-year sentence, because in the state of California, like most states, you only have to serve about half to 2/3 of your sentence before you're available for probation or parole. So if you're waiting trial in jail for 2 years, that counts as 4 years. You're already halfway to that 2/3 mark according to the way they do sentencing and prison time in the state of California. So that person who faced 12 years could be out as soon as 4 years from now, if not sooner, based on when this plea deal was ultimately entered and if they were held in jail pre-trial. And Gascon is not somebody who's harping on keeping in people in jail and making sure they don't get parole, so chances are this person might get parole very soon at the first eligible moment, because there's just nobody in the district attorney's office advocating for any kind of truth in sentencing. However, the star of our show aren't these two individuals. They may be the most culpable in the crime. However, we know there's something called felony murder, which means if you're all participating in a crime, it doesn't actually matter who fires the initial shot. You could easily all be charged and convicted with that murder. Who we're talking about today, of course, is Black, because Black is the person who just killed 3 women. And he also pleaded no contest to attempted murder, a very serious charge. However, he was only given 5 years probation. Yeah, that's right. For a drive-by shooting that resulted in somebody's death that he was a part of, he only got 5 years probation. Now, he may have been held in jail awaiting the trial before this plea, but to be clear, a no contest plea is not a plea deal. It's something that you do when you don't want to admit guilt, but you acknowledge that there's enough evidence to convict you, and then it's up to the prosecution to push for a sentence and up for the judge in order to initiate that sentence. But they decided 5 years probation. And by the way, the 4th defendant, if you're curious, the case is ongoing. But he got 5 years probation for this, and this is on top of the fact that he has at least 11 arrests and 2 other separate serious violent felony convictions.
And this tragic accident took the lives of 3 innocent people, 3 victims, 2 of them sisters, 27-year-old Kimberly Izquierdo and 23-year-old Veronica Amazola. The 3rd victim, also a 23-year-old young woman by the name of Juvelin Arroyo. The 3 women were passengers in an Uber when the suspect's Mercedes ran that red light and collided with their car. The impact was so strong that the vehicle spun around 5 times before coming to a stop.
These 3 women all died because of a man who clearly and obviously should have been behind bars. And by the way, he was arrested multiple times post his felony conviction. He had other felony convictions that indicated it was a pattern of behavior. He was a known gang member, so they could have violated his probation. They could have done anything in order to get this guy off the streets.
We also learned he has an extensive criminal history, including 3 felony convictions and a misdemeanor conviction.
But instead, they let him out over and over and over again. They didn't violate his probation. They didn't take his murder participation seriously. So he ended up crashing into and killing these women on their way from a concert, allegedly or reportedly.
I promise on everyone, if you're doing that here and you're speeding and you put everybody in danger and you crash, you injure somebody or kill somebody, you're going to go to prison. And Mr. Black, I can be comforted by that. He's going to prison. This case, although he has an extensive criminal history and he has all his strikes and everything, this one right here, I'm 100% confident he's going to go to prison. And this match should never, ever come out and see the light of day.
You know, I'm sure this head of the traffic division, whatever person, is a nice enough guy. I'm sure he means well, and I'm sure he genuinely wants justice for these 3 victims. But let's be honest. It should have been taken care of the first time he was involved in the killing of another human being. Not the fourth time. Not the fourth body on this person's hands. They should have done what was necessary when this guy was violating his probation before, when he got a sweetheart deal on a murder before, when he actually was committing other violent felonies before. This should have been resolved. So I don't really want to hear about how now you draw the line. Now that he's killed 3 women because he was escaping from another crime, now we're going to say, you know what? That's when we're going to take this seriously. That's when it matters, because it's absurd. It's cartoonish. It's ridiculous.
He says he has no doubt that the suspect will spend the rest of his life in prison, considering his prior convictions.
Look, contrary to what people tend to say about me on the internet.com, I'm not somebody who's blanket against second chances. If the circumstances warrant it, I'm all on board with it. But let's be clear. We're well beyond second chances. Before this crime, he was already responsible, in part, for a homicide. Before this crime, he already had violent felony convictions. Before this crime, he was already violating his probation. He was already given multiple second chances, multiple redos. He's been committing crimes. He's 31 years old for over half of his life, and enough should have been enough 3 years ago, not now at this point where he has 3 additional bodies on his hand. He was driving over 100 miles an hour to escape from, again, another crime that we still don't have the details of. He probably could have hurt somebody in that other crime that he was potentially fleeing. And if he wasn't committing another crime, if he wasn't running, then he just didn't give a damn. He was trying to get home on time. Maybe he's trying to feed his family. Maybe that's what Gascon is going to argue in his defense, because he refuses to prosecute anybody. But let's be clear, this guy should go away forever. He should have been away for a very long time, and this is the consequences of soft on crime. This is the consequences of electing a district attorney who cares more about the criminal than the victim. The other victim, who I can't even find the name of in all the different articles that were written related to this guy, should have been enough to hold this guy in prison. If he was just in prison for 5 years rather than on probation for 5 years, this crime would not have happened. This guy would have been handled. He would have been dealt with. Yet he got another chance, and this is what he did with it.
And this tragic accident took the lives of 3 innocent people, 3 victims, 2 of them sisters.
Again, look at these 3 women. They lost their lives due to the fact that Los Angeles refused to do what was necessary. And by the way, I object to the fact that they called this a tragic accident. This is not a tragedy. This wasn't a flood. This wasn't a freaking lightning strike. This wasn't a tornado or anything like that. This was a policy failure from top to bottom. This was a failure to engage in threat assessment. This was a failure to hold a criminal accountable. And now these 3 women are dead as a result of it. And by the way, I'm going to link their GoFundMes, their fundraising, and all of that in the description of this video. As you heard, 2 of these women were sisters. So a family is now 2 members short because of this scumbag. So if you want to support them, I believe it's 2 separate GiveSendGo/GoFundMes. Do so with the links in the description of this video, because these women did not ask for this. Again, they were just riding in an Uber when this freaking maniac was speeding into them at nearly 100 miles an hour. Gascon, you're an absolute monster. The blood is on the district attorney's hands. Make no mistake about it, because you decided with free range to suggest any possible sentence in a murder case that, you know what? 5 years probation was good enough. You know what? A long history of criminality, multiple felony convictions, not going to be considered a red flag. All these probation violations, why would we actually violate somebody on probation when we could just say they're on probation and never actually enforce any of the consequences of that? Again, if it was just a soft 5-year sentence for this role in this murder, in this drive-by shooting back in 2020, this never would have happened. But even that ridiculously soft sentence was too much for DA Gascon.
In this case, he is facing gross vehicular manslaughter, a 25-year sentence for each, a total of 75 years behind bars.
Now look, I'm trying not to be angry, I'm trying not to get aggravated, I'm trying not to be pissed off, But stories like this anger me, they aggravate me, they piss me off. And by the way, it's being reported that this guy is up for 75 years for the vehicular manslaughter charges and all of that. And great, that would be a good outcome at this point in time. But I have to make it 100% clear that even if he got convicted and sentenced to the maximum, the 25 years apiece for each of the women that he killed, there is just as much of a chance that those sentences are served not consecutively but concurrently, and this guy will still be eligible for a release at a very earlier point in time. So the idea that it's guaranteed that he'll spend his life in prison, that is not actually guaranteed. That is not actually legitimate. And based on the history of Gascon, I think it is more likely that he'll get sentenced to all of these concurrently, and it will be lower than the 25-year threshold, because honestly, he was just speeding into this Uber in order to feed his starving children. That's the argument that we're going to get from the district attorney, the person who's supposed to be advocating for the law-abiding citizens of Los Angeles, but consistently is on the side of the criminal. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the madness in Los Angeles. Till next time.